Testing, testing. Okay. So today I will look at the path again. All the problems it has are still there, and yeah, I'm looking. So the problem is that the path is just not playful on its own. All the objects, all the weapons, everything stripped away. Just the path itself is not playful enough. And I tried to solve that 2 weeks ago, and what I did is basically just remove it. So that was the wrong decision. So I'm back here, but I have a new approach, and that is that I'm looking at it from the game itself. So I'm not coming from the outside and try to come up with a good game design that ticks all the boxes but doesn't fit the game. But I'm coming from inside the game itself, from the goals that I've set for it, and then just a few game design principles that help me decide if an idea is good or bad, basically. And how that works is I have these premises for the game that are, for example, each run should be its own story, that the world design guides most of the decisions, that the barrier haunts the hero, and that it is a journey. So those are, I've revised those in the last couple of weeks a bit, not much. Some of them have been standing since I started the game a few years back. And those are where the solutions will come from. And then I have the heuristics, that is Upton's heuristics for playful situations that you can read up more if you're interested. Read up more on, because they're pretty helpful. So what they allow you is to look at situations in your game, and situations are just points of choice that the player has. So they are structured by constraints. So for the path, the terrain would be a constraint. If I would go deeper, then this skeleton right here would also be a constraint. But I'm looking simply at the path. So the terrain is basically the only constraint there. And the heuristics allow you to analyze situations, basically any situation, from me walking on the path to looking at the inventory screen and everything in between. And there are 6 heuristics that determine how playful a situation is. So the situation I'm looking at today, Hey Lily, situation is on the path. So that's super general. That's just all the objects removed. I'm on the path. What are my options? So to have a playful situation, you of course have to have moves. So the moves are, right now, they are follow the path, or they are backtrack. That's basically it. And that already looks pretty bad. So for playfulness, that is. The constraints are pretty much just the terrain and let's look at the heuristics. So if I analyze this situation, like I'm here in here right now. So moving into a dungeon isn't a choice. It's just what the path does. So it doesn't give you any more moves. Just forwards what is already there. Let me jump back in. So the heuristics for this situation are actually, they are just the upland heuristics. They are choice, variety, they are consequence, they are predictability, they are uncertainty, they are satisfaction. So those are basically yardsticks for a playful situation. And if I look at being on the path, then that choice is basically just those two. Move forward and move backward. Variety means situations don't repeat. So, and situations are just are governed by the choices they give the player. So variety is basically 0 because the choices are always the same. Consequences says it leads to new situations. It's also 0, always the same situation. The predictability means that you can anticipate new situations, and that's basically all. So all the same. Uncertainty means that new situations are predetermined. It's also 0. And desirable outcomes are attainable. That kind of checks because you can reach the end of path. So this looks all pretty dire. And one way to solve this, or basically the only way, probably, is to look at the player's role. So the main role as it pertains to the path is that the hero is on a journey to the center. So the hero just wants to cross the barrier. They're not there to go fishing or building a new home. They're just there to cross it. And from that, I can derive new moves. So if I look at the real world and look at what a traveler does, it's mainly following the path, of course, but then also finding the right path. Let me move this up. And it is resting. And it is I've not thought this through completely, so I'm getting to where I was before stream. A traveler could make a detour and getting lost is not a move. So those have to be choices. So finding the right path is actually not a choice. It should be take one exit, or maybe choose one way over the other. Getting lost is absolutely a move, just not one you want, lol, and not a planned move. I mean, you could choose badly, so that would be that could mean that you're getting lost. But yeah, getting lost is not something you choose to do. So those are the journey choices that I came up with, and another one could be resupply. If you're thinking of maybe a messenger in medieval times, they would have to stop to get food or to get water. So those would be choices on the path. And I'm thinking of more. Trying to think of more. So that is the journey role. There may be others. And I'm also looking at the variety. Situations don't repeat. So this is so hard. So you would basically those would be tied to parts of the path. So the tile patches that are the links in the chain. And those would be resupply, detour, resting. So there would be a resting patch. There would be a patch that offers a detour, one to resupply, and one that has a branch in it. But maybe I can lose this. But yeah, that's better than before, at least. Then what else are meaningful choices? So one problem with the game is previously, in the very beginning, the dungeons were optional. So there were dungeons everywhere, and you had the choice to go into a dungeon, and only the dungeons had weapons. So there was a trade-off there and a choice, but I removed that when I integrated the dungeons into the path itself. Which was maybe a bad move. But then well, so I also had the idea of choosing one way or the other. There was the idea that you could choose to move underground and the path would continue underground, and then there were checkpoints where you could switch between them. So if you were underground, you could go back up, or if you were on the surface, you could go into the dungeons. But that on its own isn't meaningful enough. Another thing is, I'm not sure if there's a move. Looking at, I'm thinking about searching for exits that are hidden, but that's not a choice. But they could be tied to the detour hidden exit. So you would choose to search for those. Resupply could. That's basically the houses or huts, because they're optional. They're also not that interesting. So that's not a very playful move. Resting is basically a non-move, so it's just waiting. But could maybe be interesting. If it leads to a new situation. If you just wake up again and continue, that's lame. Hey Andre, how's it going? What else do you do as a traveler? That could influence the path, of course. Yeah, it's afternoon for me. So let's look at the heuristics again. So choices are now well, resting and resupplying is basically the same. And I probably don't want branches. So let's remove them. Maybe it gets playful enough without it. So choices were follow the path, backtrack, rest, and look for hidden exit. Okay, that's better than before. So variety is situations don't repeat. Which means they have to be shuffled in an interesting way. And also so basically the exits have to be hidden different ways. Resting must have variable consequences. Backtracking should probably just be forbidden. So that, yeah, backtracking is actually meaningless. And I also don't want it to be meaningful. Hey Fuzzlings, I live in the future. Follow the path, rest and resupply, or a detour. That's still not amazing, but much better. Search for detour. So variety, situations don't repeat. That's a hard one. Let's look at consequence first. Moves lead to new situations. So I follow the path, I will be on the next stretch. So that's well, if one of these varies between that, then it does lead to a new situation. Just purely abstract with the path. I mean, of course, if I follow the path, I will encounter different configurations of objects and monsters, so that's given, but this is about the path itself. So, not great, but I mean, a detour could just spit you out further along the path, but yeah, and I could solve this in different ways. So it could just be dungeon, could be a dungeon, round robin. Is that how you say it? Round robin dungeon. Or it could be portal branch, portal island. Or it could be a path branch. Is the path algorithm the same since the first one? I remember this Jimmy wrote the first version. Not quite. I added weights so that it's distributed better in the world. Because if you do pure random graph walking, then the path gets stuck in local maxima where the nodes have more connections. So I've added weights against that. But I think the algorithm is probably the same here. Or mostly, at least. So the question is how can I make this resting and resupplying non-repeating? I mean, the huts don't repeat, so that's good. Detours would be different. But the moving forward on the path, I'm not sure if I'm in the right in the right mindset completely, because what about gaps in the path? What if I add a gap? I mean, there's no choice attached, but at least it doesn't repeat then. If you have, say, a puzzle that you have to solve so that a bridge appears, there's no choice attached to that, but I mean, this is why this is so hard. You can't, I think you can't really think of it in one single layer of abstraction. It's all intertwined. Let's look at consequence. Moves lead to new situations. So they pretty much all do. Predictability, new situations can be anticipated. Yes. And then new situations aren't predetermined. That's basically also checks the boxes for all of these. If I take into account how the terrain changes with the path. So entering a hut is predictable. You'll find the same stuff in there, but the layout, or if there's monsters, is uncertain. And then satisfaction. So the detours should probably have something attached that is desirable. So that could be they hold the charms, and that's basically going back to the very beginning, where the dungeons were round-robin dungeons. It could hold charms or other upgrades. Exclusively, that is. You would only find them there. And yeah, I think I have to analyze each of these, or those two at least, with the heuristics as well, to make them more interesting. So satisfaction, you can get supplies. You can get whatever's hidden in the detour. Let's just add it all. And then resting, resupplying. Sorry. Resting, resupplying. I still don't know what resting means. But I have sleeping mats in the game that I could use. It could tie in with the scrapped sanity or focus meter, where if you don't sleep, illusions start to appear. That's actually would be pretty fun. And then if you fall asleep, you could have dreams. There's some game mechanics where resting gives you some sort of boost, but that's mostly for stamina and other things. I mean, it could also change day and night. If day and night would have implications. So let's actually split them. Illusion meter reset. And well, was just talking about the other one. What was it? Yeah, my brain just dumped that again. Oh yeah, day and night. Come on. So that would be cool. And resupply, I could actually give the player a fishing rod so that they can catch fish for food. So this is a much better solution to the illusion system. Much better, yeah, solution than the just drinking the potions the whole time. Not sure if I... And this could also tie into hidden path exits or path exit illusions. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's look at it again. Choice: follow, rest, resupply, search, detour, or maybe well, there's something else I haven't put in here. Just thought of it because I could also write investigate. So another thing that is the role of the hero, kind of, not really, but would be cool is to have the hero learn about the what? On the history place. That's I think that's not as important, of course. Initially, that's not strong enough. So let's write discover or uncover what happened. Which is not actually the main objective, but it could be useful. So the hero could be forced to know things in order to advance. So that could tie into the journey. But I think that's leading too far for now. I'm just looking at the path. But the question is, cover the factory or something. Question is, can I add a choice to that? So it's either going on a detour, it's either resupplying, or it's either resting. So these are all choices, you don't have to. They're also not quite exclusive, so that's probably bad. Or I could make them... I don't think they need to be exclusive. Do they need to be exclusive? I mean, they can all have trade-offs. This is going to haunt me forever. This random path in a static world. So variety situations don't repeat. Let's keep with the cover the history roll. So what, while still journeying, so if you find let's say you're in a dungeon and you find an engraving, maybe in the floor, possibly in the floor, because that's how you can see it. You can study it, but what does that bring you? It actually sounds interesting. So if I have study engravings, is that also not exclusive? So I don't think this is actually that interesting, unless the detour is tied to the engravings. That sounds good. So you would have a mural or engravings, and studying them probably open a hidden stairwell. Not sure if that helps me really. Yeah, and resupply is also non-choice. Because you'll probably always do that. Unless it's dangerous. Um, yeah, and resting is also just staying in place. I mean, it's a cool mechanic, but it doesn't really forward the problem with the path. So let's look at this more abstractly. How what moves could I have along a continuous line? I mean, I could jump forward, but that's pretty meaningless. Could jump backward, also pretty meaningless. Could make a detour. That's not bad. I mean, one theme that's pretty fitting would be to not get lost along the path. But how do I implement that with choices? So what I could have is just branches going off the path, which are the bad ones. And how do you make that playful? And what happens if you walk into them? Do they just spawn shadows and then you have to walk back? That's also pretty boring. And actually, what about the segments that I had before? The path stones that you had to destroy and you would get a charm. Where do they fall here? Predictability. Your situations can be anticipated. That doesn't seem right. It's probably tying into satisfaction. So maybe I have resting points at fixed intervals. So desirable outcomes. Maybe that's a new angle. So actually, let's put this here. Reach X percentage on path. So that could be path stones, resting points. Claim item from detour. Well, but what about the path itself? So the most obvious one is, of course, reach the end. And that's it. What else could there be when it comes to the path? I mean, I think the path itself doesn't have to be amazing if all the stuff on it is. But it also shouldn't be as dead as it is right now. Or as non-playful. It's not dead, but it's not playful in itself. Actually, let me look at what Upton says about moves, because they because some things just happen to the player, but I'm not sure if they count. Pretty sure they don't count as moves, but okay, it talks about constraints that create the moves. Okay. So constraint for resting would be sleep. Constraint for resupplying would be health. And for the detour it would be gear. And follow the path, it would be progress. So that's pretty clear cut. But that takes into account everything, which is probably just what I have to do. So it's not abstract. I can't look at it in an abstract way, probably. But this is actually not that bad. But resting and resupplying are moves. But yeah, let's look at that again through the choices. So variety, situations don't repeat. That means if I take one of these moves, I should be transported into a new situation. And that gets pretty complicated. So detour is pretty clear cut. I'm somewhere else. Following the path is also pretty clear cut. I'm just experiencing different terrain and enemies. And resting, I relieve some stuff, which may be a new situation. If I'm then free to do other things. If it changes day and night, that may also change the situation. But I would have to have day and night be pretty significant. And then resupplying. I mean, I'm not starving anymore. And I'm not on low health, which kind of changes your situation. But they're not that great. But they do kind of lead to new situations. So consequence. Wait, what was I saying about variety? So consequences moves lead to new situations. Okay, that's that. Variety is situations don't repeat. Okay, that's something different. That is let me read it up. Because it's pretty easy to get confused with these variety. A good game doesn't just offer situations that contain the right amount of choice, it also continually varies those situations, so each choice is fresh. Wait, am I misunderstanding something here? How come what did I just No, I think he explains this badly. I think it just means that this situation right here doesn't repeat verbatim. Or am I framing the situation wrong? Or maybe in a land in between the abstract and the concrete. So concrete would be just this situation right here. Where I don't have a place to rest or to resupply or to detour, I only have the path forward. Okay, here's this opportunity to resupply. Great. Yeah, I think I'm too deep into the game design again. And I have to actually play the game to find out what is right here. Yeah, this is really hard. So I think to make situations not repeat, I have to have about a dozen of these choices everywhere. But I think it may actually be enough for now if I add the detour back in, because that's the only choice that actually changes the path. And then I'll have to probably do this again. This may actually open up more pathways to make the path more interesting, but no idea. So predictability, new situations can be anticipated. That is true for all of them, but they aren't predetermined. That's also true. Detours change, the huts change, and the sleep must have some kind of variability. Then uncertainty, yeah, not predetermined, and satisfaction are the desirable outcomes. And that would actually include heal up, get better weapon, reset illusion meter. So those would be what guide this. But I don't have the getting lost at all right now. And I could make the detours just be loops that lead back onto the path, even on the surface. So on the ground, they're pretty easy to implement, but on the surface, I could do the same. And then you would have kind of a getting lost theme. But how could you get lost in a different way? Maybe if you're teleported somewhere completely different, but that would also be the detour. That could then be a trap. Trap or engravings. So that would then throw you in a gauntlet with the exit on the other side. That could work. It could also be hold this in the ground. Yeah, so they're pretty variable. So that's good. So constraints are terrain, health, gear, and sleep. Which I just made up. Not sure if that's a good one. And of course hunger. Eat. Yeah, maybe I'll have to look at this more, but maybe I'll switch out hunger for sleep. That would actually be pretty cool. And then have hunger, just like before, just be, or food, I mean, would just be small health items. I think that's actually not bad. The detours. They could carry a lot of the problems. Or solve a lot of the problems, I mean. Yeah. And so this is all separate from how the patches are laid out. So I have ideas for trap rooms or more visually pleasing rooms, and also kind of encounters. So they would all spice this up, but yeah, I'm just trying to solve the real deep problem with the path. And yeah, detours may actually be it. Yeah, okay guys, I'm not sure what else I can do on stream today. I'll just have to sit down and look over this again and again. Maybe try some things out. So I'll probably end now, which is a very short stream. Sorry about that. But I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully with a better idea of what I'll do to fix the paths. But yeah, but this is basically how I'll intend to go forward with the game, is letting the game drive what I'll do. So the problems that crop up, and I'll solve them with the heuristics. The other way around. I'll find the problems with the heuristics and then solve them with the premises. All right. Have a good day, Lily. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Okay, guys. I will see you tomorrow. All right. Bye.